Grace, are you there? Can you open the door? She frowned at the noisy voice. It was the usual voice of her mother-in-law. She wished for a bit more consideration. She had been enjoying her comfort. Open the door. Wanting to avoid troubling the neighbors, she reluctantly opened the front door. You can't even have children, yet you think it's okay to just walk out on everything? As a wife, that's unforgivable. Her husband, his mistress, and her mother-in-law were all gathered together. What? Considering the new wife and the grandchild that's on the way, we'll take this house as part of any property division. Please leave. Yes, please leave right away. That's right. Farewell, you infertile. They said it without any hesitation. They didn't realize what they were misunderstanding. My name is Grace. I am a 43-year-old office worker. My husband, Cesar, is a year younger than me. We wanted to naturally have children, but it never happened. After many discussions, we chose to live with just the two of us. I have no regrets. Since getting married, we've lived in an old but convenient one-bedroom apartment. While living modestly, we save money for our own home. I recently transferred to the planning department at work, which I had always hoped for. The tough job in sales paid off, I was promoted smoothly, and I've become trusted within the company. For me, without children, my work is my passion. However, my husband was in a different situation. What? You quit your job again? Yes. Why did you do that without any discussion? I was lost for words due to the shock. I refused a transfer, and my boss became annoyed. And you decided to quit because of that. That's what happened, but actually I'm at a loss. I was unjustly fired. I sighed. In that case, you should sue for compensation. No, I don't want to make a big deal out of it. Why not? I understand. In reality, it wasn't an unjust firing. This is a problematic habit of his. He can't keep a job. It's not that he's unserious, but he suddenly gets fed up and quits. Every 2 or 3 years, changing jobs has become the norm, and each time it disrupts our household budget and our rhythm of life. As a partner, it's hard to say he should endure even the tough jobs. However, we're already in our 40s. Frequent job changes only increase the drawbacks. There are times when I feel fortunate we don't have children. My support alone won't be sufficient for a family with children. If something happens to me, will he be able to support us? I knew this, but as time passes, reemployment doesn't progress as expected. The timing is certainly bad, but age and past career history are also factors. He can't hide his irritation. He doesn't do any housework and just stays at home sighing all day. If he has time, he should at least tidy up the room he messed up. I think I have more right to be irritated. I felt like complaining about something. The house was small, and there's no escape, which made it tough at times like these. I tried to calm down. Fighting wouldn't accomplish anything. I held back my complaints and watched how my husband was doing. The job he eventually secured was a contract position at a factory. It wasn't what he hoped for, but it was better than being unemployed. Let's move forward step by step again. We can overcome this if we're together. That's what I was thinking when I received a call from my mother-in-law. Hello, is this Grace? Mother-in-law, what's the matter? I've heard that you've been cold to Cesar. What? I was so surprised that I let out a strange sound. I didn't know what she's referring to. Are you being harsh to Cesar, who is hurt from being fired? Please wait, mother-in-law. That's not the case at all. What in the world is she talking about? I want to ask her the same. Did you harshly tell him to find a job quickly or clean up? I didn't understand how it came to this. It's true that I have indirectly mentioned things like, "It would be nice if you could find a job soon, or please clean up the mess you made." However, I never spoke in a commanding tone. This is also one of my husband's troubling habits, reporting everything to his mother as soon as something happens. Moreover, he tends to exaggerate the facts. It's also a problem that my mother-in-law always believes him immediately, but I wonder when she will finally let go of her child. That's unfair. Caesar wouldn't criticize you, would he? There's no reason for that. Why would you say that? You think you shouldn't be criticized. Isn't it your fault you can't have children? What? There are things more valuable than a job. Regrets won't turn back time. Why is it considered my fault that we don't have children? It seems my husband is telling convenient lies. We agreed on this together, yet I feel betrayed. He might want to save face, but turning his mother against me to make me the villain is childish. As a couple who have been together for a long time, I believe we should maintain trust, so I decided to talk to my husband that night. Please don't exaggerate things to your mother. If you have any complaints, tell me directly. Let's do that considering our future, shall we? My husband, seeming uninterested, started fiddling with his phone during the conversation. Please listen. Be quiet. I'm getting a call from work. With that, he left the seat. The discussion did not continue afterwards, and he just disappeared into the bedroom. Was he in a bad mood, or perhaps tired from his job at the factory? It couldn't be helped. I had to try to talk to him again later, but the next day he avoided the discussion again, saying he was tired and sleepy. The following day, he returned home late at night from a welcome and farewell party at work. He spent the entire day in bed with a hangover. In the following days, he was late coming home due to overtime and social obligations. He is clearly avoiding the issue. He intends to leave things ambiguous, but that won't solve anything. The baseless accusations from my mother-in-law are painful. I rubbed my eyes as I waited for my husband to return. We shouldn't keep postponing the problem. One late night, my husband returned home in a good mood, humming, "Welcome back. You're up? What a surprise. What's up? Did something happen? I was waiting for you, Caesar." "What?" He looked annoyed. "Why are you avoiding this? You're being noisy. You're acting strangely. You're persistent. If there's something, just write it down on a note." "A note? You mean we don't have to talk directly?" "Yeah. Are you still hung up on that old issue?" Really persistent. I was stunned by his words. Has he forgotten our marriage vows? He nodded when I said that an ideal couple understands each other. "I used to like your seriousness, but now you're inflexible and oppressive. If you don't want to lose me, you need to change your attitude. There are plenty of other women." "What do you mean?" "Just what I said. Are you having an affair? I've been harboring doubts about my husband's recent behavior. Are you joking? What have I done wrong? I'm telling you, you're being annoying. Do you want a divorce?" "Don't use that kind of language." My husband clicked his tongue. He pulled a green paper from his bag and thrusted it at me roughly. It was a completed divorce form. "Why do you have this?" "I was asked to fill it out." "By whom?" "You should be able to guess." "No, I don't understand." "There's a woman who wants me to submit it." I was at a loss for words. Was my husband asked by his affair partner to write this divorce form? Don't act so high and mighty when you understand. You're useless without me. My hands trembled as I clutched the divorce form. My heart rate increased. What time do you think it is? I'm going to sleep. You should cool down somewhere else. My husband disappeared into the bedroom. I stared at his name written on the divorce form. What emotions did he have while writing this? Was his late return that day because he was spending time with his affair partner? I felt foolish for having supported his new job. My head spun and I felt dizzy. I couldn't think of anything. As he suggested, I decided to cool my head. I quietly gathered all my essentials and left the house. A month later, I have not returned home since that day. I tried to contact my husband a few times, but there was no response. My room was quiet and comfortable. It helped me relax and settle down. The sunlight streaming through the window brightened the room, which still lacked furniture, and added light to the living area. The ventilation was also good. When the cool air touched my cheek, I naturally took a deep breath, and the scent of wood was soothing. Just then, "Grace, are you there? Can you open the door?" I frowned at the noisy voice. It was the usual voice of my mother-in-law. I wished for a bit more consideration. I had been enjoying my comfort. Opened the door. Not wanting to trouble the neighbors, I reluctantly opened the front door. "I finally found you. It's been a while," said my mother-in-law cheerfully. I pushed back as she tried to barge in. "Wait, please." "What's wrong? What happened? Can't you see? I don't want to let you in." "Well, you're quite something, aren't you?" Surprisingly, my husband was standing behind his mother, who is the young woman next to him. "The new house smells nice. I like it. It's lovely." The three of them tried to enter the house as if it were the most natural thing in the world. It was incredibly audacious. "Wait a minute. How did you find out where I live?" "Why do you ask that?" "Answer my question first. Why are you being so harsh with Caesar?" "What? Leaving everything and walking out of the house like that is unacceptable for a wife. Moreover, the reason being you don't like Tana." "Tana. So that's the young woman's name. I see. My mother-in-law approves of her. Did she say I left the house?" I felt forced out, practically evicted when my husband told me to leave. My husband, standing close to the young woman, looked at me provocatively. "It's a pretty good house. The number of rooms is suitable, and your taste in interior isn't bad either. I'll forgive you for buying a new house on your own." "What? But it's impossible for us to live together. Your infertility has been frowned upon by society." "I'm sorry, what do you mean?" "You should be grateful for the time we spent together." "What?" I was confused and unable to understand what they were trying to say, tilting my head in bewilderment. "Caesar, Tana looks tired and wants to sit down." "That's right. Sorry, Tana." "Grace, provide Tana a place to sit inside the house." "What? No." "What? Didn't you know? Tana is pregnant with Caesar's child." "Pregnant? I hadn't heard about that." Yet, surprisingly, my heart remained calm. I wonder why. Was it because the succession of shocking events has numbed my sense of reality, or have my emotions become paralyzed? Pregnant women should be respected, you know? It might be hard for someone who is infertile to understand. Is that so? Haven't you realized yet? We've decided to accept Tana as family instead of you, Grace. We want you to give up this house as part of the property settlement and leave. Yeah, get out quickly. Yes, it must have been hard for you, being infertile. They said it without any hesitation. They didn't realize their own misunderstanding. I cannot give this house as part of any property division, especially since it is my own house that you are asking me to leave from." "What? Moreover, we are already divorced, aren't we?" "What? My husband and mother-in-law were shocked. Was it really that surprising? I had already submitted the divorce papers he filled out. Grace, what are you talking about? We were supposed to start a new life together. I have no such intention. My mother-in-law panicked and my husband became furious. Why would you say such a thing? I bought this house with my own money. What? Their disbelief was astounding. It seems he hadn't read a single email I sent. Do you really know nothing? The night my husband handed me the divorce papers, the days of endurance I had suffered through were released in an instant, enveloping me in joy. My heart was filled so much that I couldn't think of anything else. Could I now live freely? At that moment, my head spun with excitement. I signed the divorce papers with anticipation and submitted them early the next morning at the courthouse. I divided our joint savings in half and transferred it to my husband's account. Given our previous earnings, the savings were almost entirely mine, but I wanted to avoid any conflict. And then I informed him via email, let's discuss further matters through lawyers from now on. With the divided savings and a recent bonus, I acquired a new house, covering the remainder with a loan. You won't be able to get a loan. What are you talking about as a housewife? I was surprised at my husband's condescending remark. You would have a hard time getting a loan too, with all your job changes. What? You don't understand our finances. My salary is more than double yours. Perhaps hurt in his pride, my husband's face turned red and he trembled. Tana seemed taken aback. Caesar, I thought I'd be living in a brand new house, she exclaimed. Calm down, Tana. My ex-husband was in disarray. I had been the one supporting our household finances. It's unbelievable that the new wife and mother-in-law would end up living together. Grace, said my former mother-in-law, filled with anger. This is unacceptable. It's like fraud. Well, who wrote the divorce papers first? It was she, the new wife standing here, who pushed for it, thinking she would support you in the future. It's good that you have a grandchild coming. No, I will take this house, my former mother-in-law said aggressively, breathing heavily. How arrogant. That's not possible. It's a waste for you, Grace, to use this large house alone, isn't it? Actually, I plan to live here with my parents in the future. What are you saying? Even though you're just a daughter-in-law. No, I'm no longer your daughter-in-law. I have nothing to do with you anymore. I might have new encounters, but I didn't mention that to them. What are we going to do? I thought I was going to live in this house, my former mother-in-law said, disappointed. What happened to the apartment you used to live in? I asked. We sold that old property. You sold it. Yes, when I saw you moving appliances into this new house, I immediately contacted Caesar, and we decided we would live here. So, that was the situation. The only place left is the small, old one-bedroom apartment I used to live in. I felt no sympathy to them. Unlike a strong-willed career woman like you, Grace, I was hoping for a stable retirement with a compliant new wife and a grandchild and a new house. She was disappointed. Why would she say such things? I had no choice but to work hard because my husband was unreliable. I'm disappointed. But I'm going back to tell Daddy everything, Tana said defiantly, unabashed. Wait, if Dad gets angry, it'll be a mess. You better take responsibility. Please, Tana, don't do that. The reason my husband impregnated the young woman was that she was a company clerk who, emboldened at a company drinking party, quickly became involved with him. She wasn't just an employee. She turned out to be the daughter of the factory manager. Coming from a flashy high school background, She had no prior experience with men. My husband was her first, and she didn't know he was married. When she later found out he was married, she believed the classic line, "It's over with my wife. I'll get a divorce soon," and she prepared the divorce papers to give to him. She could potentially be a very thoughtful and good wife. I wish her luck. So, that's settled then. I'll leave the rest to you. Wait a minute. I felt fear as my husband tried to leave the front door open. Grace, don't you feel anything for mothers? What do you think about the life that's about to be born? Grace, if you can't pay the property division, give this house as a gift for the baby's birth. Facing my desperate ex-husband and former mother-in-law, I smiled warmly and said, "Congratulations, goodbye." I closed the door coldly and locked it. I had planned to leave it to my lawyer, but things didn't go as smoothly. Given their audacity in demanding someone else's house, they weren't likely to back down easily. Whenever my ex-husband sent bitter emails, I replied, "Please contact my lawyer," and ignored everything else. But the problem was my former mother-in-law. When she left long messages on the answering machine, it was truly exhausting. "Because of you, Grace, I have no house now. At least find me another apartment. This house is too small and cramped." When I tried to get the new wife to do household chores, she told me to do it myself. What should I do now? I often feel like deleting these voicemail messages right away, but they might be useful, so I've decided to save them. The demands may increase. After all, they are quite intrusive people. One day, a visitor appeared at my home unexpectedly. The doorbell rang without any prior appointment, and thinking it could be my ex-husband, Caesar, or his mother, I clutched my phone, debating whether to call the police as I opened the door. However, a man with piercing eyes and a stern face stood before me. I tensed up. I felt like I had seen him somewhere before, but I couldn't possibly know such a menacing man. It might even be a scam disguised as door-to-door sales. "Who is it?" "I'm Smith, the factory manager." Hearing this, I suddenly remembered. He's Tana's father, the factory manager. I remembered that she had been trying to discuss this matter with her father. Caesar and Tana appeared behind Mr. Smith, both smiling. It seemed they had brought a powerful ally. "Please, Dad, tell her. Father-in-law, please teach her a lesson." Mr. Smith's face was marked by frowning and his lips downturned in anger. I was contemplating how to handle any demands for compensation or support for the pregnancy. I decided to call the police and was looking at my phone when, at that moment, this time, "Yes, what is it?" Mr. Smith said very loudly, "I'm truly sorry." After saying that, the factory manager, Mr. Smith, grabbed the heads of my ex-husband, Caesar, and Tana forcefully, apologized to her properly. "What?" "It hurts. My neck is going to break." "Dad, what are you doing? This isn't what we talked about." I watched the scene in astonishment. What was happening? Don't misunderstand. I brought you here to apologize to her. What? "I'm truly sorry. I heard that my daughter stole your husband and then even demanded your house." "Yes, that's correct." Caesar and Tana began to look unsettled. "Dad, you knew about this." "Yes. All that talk about being deceived or having your house taken away was all lies, wasn't it?" "Where did you hear that?" "Your mother told me everything." Mr. Smith, visibly angry, clenched his teeth. According to him, my former mother-in-law had been pressuring him, saying, "Now that your daughter has taken my son, we should get along as relatives, in various aspects. You can satisfy us by buying us an apartment. Of course, you are free to visit any time." Of course, Mr. Smith firmly refused. I was dumbfounded by such audacity. The person who said that was my former mother-in-law, always making convenient stories. I am disappointed in you and your mother. How could this be? I love only my wife. Stop this nonsense. Stop it, Dad. You're scaring me. You're the same. What? Just because you're my only precious daughter doesn't mean you should act spoiled. Both of you are useless in the factory. There's a very demanding workplace out there. Go gain some experience there before you come back. What? Mr. Smith said this to my ex-husband and Tana, and then turned to me. Does this suffice as an apology? Yes. But why are you doing this? Let's continue to keep in touch. I was utterly confused about what was happening, stared at his face, and then it dawned on me. Yes, it was a long time ago. He was the head of the administrative department of a company I used to deal with when I was in sales. I'm truly sorry for not recognizing you. Due to a business merger, I'm now managing a newly built factory. It's understandable you didn't recognize me. I see. I couldn't believe it when I first learned your husband was working at our factory. Mr. Smith seemed troubled as he looked away. Is my ex-husband causing any problems? He has a poor work attitude, doesn't learn his duties, and takes days off without permission. The image of my ex-husband not taking his work seriously came to mind, but it wasn't surprising. No longer his wife, I could do nothing but offer a wry smile in response. We plan to retrain him from scratch. He won't be coming back here anymore. My ex-husband shrank back, and Tana looked offended. You were always good at training new employees, weren't you? Yes, very strictly and thoroughly. I'll support from afar. Even with the factory manager's influence, my ex-husband's rehabilitation looks doubtful. Ultimately, he needs to make a fresh start and put in the effort himself, especially for the sake of the innocent child that is on the way. There is one thing I regret not clarifying: the misconception that the infertility issues were my fault. Long ago, we visited a hospital together to investigate the cause of our infertility. There was no issue found with me, but my husband was diagnosed with a sperm problem. Although it was said that natural conception would be difficult, it was not impossible. The fact that Tana became pregnant from a single encounter with my ex-husband could be seen as miraculous. Or perhaps it was just fate, or maybe he wasn't the father at all. I don't know, and it doesn't matter to me anymore. I also received a follow-up from the factory manager during a business update. Ultimately, the couple and my former mother-in-law lived in that old, cramped one-bedroom apartment for a while. They were told by the factory manager to try and make it on their own as a condition to live together with him in the future. Although they pledged to save for the baby and commit seriously to their jobs, Tana quickly became unable to cope with the new lifestyle. It was just as I had anticipated. My husband may not realize this since I used to manage our finances, but living on his income alone is extremely difficult and perhaps impossible. If the three of them live freely without saving, the money split at the time of our divorce will quickly run out. Tana returned to her parents' home after giving birth and never came back. Meanwhile, my ex-husband grew to dislike his job and quit. In a panic, my former mother-in-law demanded her daughter and grandchild back, which led to her visiting the factory manager's home and subsequently caused a disturbance that resulted in the police being called. Truly shameful. Everyone is too selfish. However, it's no longer my concern, so I refrained from asking for further updates. I wish Mr. Smith the best. My new home is very comfortable. Being alone can be lonely, and sometimes I worry about what I would do if I fell ill, but having my husband around never really made things better. Living alone isn't different from what I've been doing all along. I always believed that spouses should support each other, but in reality, it was just my husband relying entirely on me. The absence of someone who was never truly needed has not caused any inconvenience. 7 years have passed, and my parents, whom I brought from my hometown, now live with me in my well-acquainted home. Additionally, a former colleague from my sales department days also lives with us. He was once a top competitor of mine, consistently excelling in performance. After I moved to the planning department, the competition dwindled, and it seems he missed our occasional encounters. I felt the same way. Knowing about my divorce, he promptly proposed a relationship, and now he has become a husband in whom I can place my complete trust. Having worked together for a long time, we can talk about anything without reservation. He is an ideal partner. I look forward to continuing our life